What's up, everyone? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another AWS Power Hour. My name is Aaron Hunter. I'm a senior technical trainer with AWS Training Certification. And with me, we have my buddy Matt.
How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing great, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
It's
Very.
episode 4.
Is this flown by or what?
It's the
This
second
is.
half of the Power Hour.
I
Yeah.
know. We're almost done.
All right. If you're new here, my name is Aaron Hunter. Matt Heffernan is also a senior technical trainer on the training certification team. I am based out of Frisco, Texas. Matt is Colorado.
Yep. Up in the mountains.
Up in the mountains of Colorado. Let us know where you're joining from. Are you joining from Frisco? Are you joining from Colorado? Are you joining somewhere in the mountains, somewhere on the beach, somewhere in the desert? I don't know. Where are you located? Let us know in the chat. By the way, we do have chat moderators, so shout out to each one of them. If you're new here, let us know in the chat as well. But today we are going to talk about Cloud Practitioner. So, Power Hour Cloud Practitioner, Episode 4, Storage and Database Services. Let's go ahead and jump into it. We have our episode homework, isn't that right? So I guess
Yes.
first question is, did anyone do the homework? We'll come to that. We have a poll for you. Don't worry. Let me double check the chat here. I do think it's moving along. I do think it is. Yes. Ooh, we have people from Chicago, from India, Italy. Hello, ciao. And then we have Dominican Republic, living what is it, joining from Canada with a lot of A's, Canada, or is it Canada A? I don't know. Brazil, hey, welcome from Brazil. I think it's a bom dia, I believe. Is that how you say that? Venezuela, Italy, more people from Italy. Castle Rock, Colorado. Do you know where that is, Matt?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. About
How
two
far is
hours away from me. About
to?
two
Okay,
hours
so
away.
they
On
would
the
have to
Front Range.
drive.
I'm in the mountain. Yeah. Nice little town between Denver and Colorado Springs.
Perfect, perfect. Guatemala, Dubai, UAE. Oh, we have a new region in the UAE. Did you know that, Matt?
Yes, yes. I saw one of our other instructors posted it internally.
Yeah.
It was a challenge. What was do you remember what was the hit? I saw, I can't remember the name of the instructor, doesn't matter, but he said, what was the newest? Well, I mean, it won't matter, whatever. All right, let's get back on track. So he said, what was the newest region created for AWS after you started right after you started AWS? Do you remember
Ooh,
which one?
for me, no. So I joined in 2015. I'm actually curious. So I'll give everyone here a little extra homework on top of the homework. I joined in May 2015. So let me know if you can find out what was the most recent region that we launched before May 2015. Post in the chat when you find out. I also see Arlington, Zealandia, and then we also have our chat moderators, Thomas Cameron and Anthony Gomes. Um, hey, you know what, Matt? We have some wonderful homework here on the screen. We've been talking about location, location, location. But what was the homework? It was to review EC2 and AWS Lando's FAQs. We have
Yep.
links. We're going to go ahead and throw those in the chat for everyone. And the call to action for you was to share one use case, one on LinkedIn, of how Lambda can be used to automate tasks. Before we start though, the question for each of you is: Did you do your homework? So, we have a different poll. We have a
Yeah.
different poll. All over the place here today. It's only the fourth episode. It's like we should know what we're doing. How many episodes have you watched so far? One, two, three, or maybe this is your first time here. If this is your first time, welcome. We're glad to have you. And let us know how many episodes you've watched. Hey, guess what? The on demand episodes do count. They actually do. So if you've watched multiple episodes on demand, go for it and type your numbers. Most people are saying 3. We do have some people are saying 2 and 1, and some people are saying 4. First time here. So for those saying 4, it's your first time here. Welcome. Really, really nice to have you here. Um,
Oh, somebody wanted to know where the dog option
I
was.
I just saw that. I know what happened to the dog option. You know what? You know what? Let's bring that up. Okay. All right,
Yep.
everyone, we're going to go ahead and throw another poll option up here. Stay tuned, stay tuned. And here's the other poll. This is the poll that I was thinking. We don't have dogs today, we have fish. So hopefully you did your homework from last week. The homework was to post that one use case. And there you go. There's the fish. So did you do your homework? Yes. If you don't know what we're talking about, maybe you're like, what homework? I have no idea. Or maybe your fish ate it. Let us know in the chat. Last night's ghost says yum fish. We have someone here joining from Cairo, Egypt. Welcome, welcome. And let's go ahead and pull up. Someone said they ate their homework. Well, that's not good. Don't eat your own homework, please don't. All right,
And
everyone.
someone just binge watched all 3 episodes yesterday. That's cool.
Oh, that
Catch up
pull that
fast.
one. Pull that one on the screen. Let's do that. Let's see if I can get this properly. Here we go. Yay! Yay! Thanks for being here. So, to what homework you just binge watched all 3 episodes? Yeah, I mean, at least you watched the episodes. So, if you want to watch the fourth episode again and see your face up on the screen, go for it. Do it. Take a screenshot, post it on your social media. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what to do. So, who did homework? A few people said they did. A few people said they have their fish ate the homework, or they're like, what homework? Well, here's the homework, and here's what some people said. So Michael says Lambda functions can be used to automate responses to notifications like Amazon SNS or simple notification service, or maybe responses to emails like using Amazon simple email service, Amazon SES. So we can only tell if you posted your homework if the response is public. Okay, we can see the globe right here. If the response is public, we can see it right here. Make sure it's public. And then also, if you're using the hashtag AWS Power Hour, it helps us additionally if you mention us. And looks like Matt, you were mentioned, but you weren't tagged. I don't know what happened there. It's okay. You know why? Because we still got it. We still pulled it up. We have one more person who said that they've been delayed on getting their cloud practitioner certification. Christina, are you here? Say hello in the chat. I saw you earlier. I know you're here already. But say hello. Give us a wave in the chat. And then they might accomplish becoming cloud practitioner certified because of this. So, Christina, let's get you up on the screen here. Give me a second. That's me. Oh, hold on. It's scrolling. There we go. That's me. I'm Christina. Hey, how's it going? All right. And then really cool because she says that Lambda can help automate support deploying code. That's super cool. Super neat. All right. What do we have for this week? Well, like we mentioned, we have. Oh, that's not what I want. This is what I want right here. Like we mentioned, we have storage and database services. So in this episode, we're going to dive deeper into topics around fundamental storage and database services for your cloud environment. In particular, we're going to focus on Amazon S3, Amazon Simple Storage Service, Amazon Elastic Block Store, our EBS service, and then Amazon DynamoDB and Amazon Relational Database Service, or RDS. So with that, I'm going to hand over to my buddy Matt to continue on the journey of storage and databases.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. Well, let's just start off. Let's step back in terms of tools. I've mentioned this before. We got a lot of tools in the Amazon toolbox, right? And we're going to talk about storage. There are multiple storage options. We're going to focus on 2 today. So there are multiple. We're going to focus on 2. The first one is Simple Storage Service, or Amazon S3. And then we're going to talk about Elastic Block Store. So we were talking about this earlier. Think about all the data that companies have to store. Think about all the data you have to store, right? You got pictures, you've got maybe you have bills. I was doing expenses today before we started, so I had all the receipts I had to upload, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that business and just life itself generates a lot of data, and we can store that data in different locations. and
Would you
Amazon
say
S3.
mo data, mo problems? There's a song about that
Yeah,
somewhere, I'm
yeah,
sure.
I think so. I think so. Yes, right? Well, are you a digital hoarder? We were talking about that too, right? Do you have a lot of my wife
Yeah.
and I, when we moved to the mountains, I had all these USB drives. And she's like, "What's on those?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." And she's like, "Okay." So I started going through them. I had stuff from 20 years ago when I was working,
How
training
many of those
materials.
USB drives did you pick up in the parking lot, Matt?
No, none,
We
none.
talked about security. Don't do that. Don't
Yes,
do that. Never pick up a USB drive from the parking lot, okay?
correct. So anyway, we went ahead and so let's get into Amazon S3. So it talks about here that it's object built storage. It's object storage. So it stores the object. Maybe that could be a file. Maybe that could be a video, and it stores that object, and there's data with it. So there's metadata, data about data. That's what the definition of metadata is. And so it tells you information about that particular data. And S3 is it says it's simple storage service, but it is really simple. I can create
Yeah.
an S3 um, an S3 bucket. That's what we call. That's what you store in. And how big can the bucket be, Aaron? Do you know?
How big can the bucket be? I mean, it's unlimited in size. Like the bucket
Ah,
exponentially just grows and grows and grows. There's no limit to the bucket.
correct. There's no limit. It's not like that USB hard drive that had 100 gig or 256 gig or whatever. And maybe I'm dating myself from the last time I bought a hard drive, but you're
My
going ahead.
phone is a terabyte. My phone.
All right.
Like that's insane. It's in my pocket.
And so we have the ability to put up the maximum file size in S3 is 5 terabytes. Is 5 terabytes. So you can put basically 5 of your phones. Everything that's in your phone as one file, one collective file, or however we want. That's big, and we can store those buckets. One of the other things that comes up in my developing on AWS classes a lot is you can take an S3 bucket and you could turn it into a website.
That's
And
really
so
cool.
you can create a static website. We actually do it in the class, but you can create it as a static website. You only need an index.html and an error.html file, and you can go ahead and create. It's a static website, and it's great. So you could have you could go in and create your own if you wanted, and store files and share files out, maybe pictures from your upcoming vacation or whatever. Yeah, you can do that static website. So a couple of different things as we go along with S3, and there's different pricing. And you're not going to have to know pricing for the test, but it's really good to understand just the pricing for it. And so we have multiple different storage classes, and we'll talk about those. But S3 standard, general purpose storage for any data, videos, backups. Companies use it for backups. They use it for regulatory information, right? There are certain agencies throughout the world that require companies to keep data, and they have to keep it for so long. And so this is a great place, because look at it here. It's less than 3 cents per gigabyte for the first 50 terabytes a month.
That's very inexpensive. So it's super affordable, super inexpensive. I actually did some calculations on my buckets in my own account, and I have over a half million objects. Literally
Wow.
over half million objects, and they range in sizes from pretty large videos to real small log files, but over a half million. You know what I pay a month, Matt, for a half
Yeah.
million objects in varying sizes? Less
No.
than $2.
Wow. So hoarding is good. Hoarding is cost effective.
It
Is
can
that
be
what
with
we're
Amazon
saying? It
S3.
can be.
Yeah,
Yes.
it can be with Amazon S3 if you choose the right storage class. Because here it's saying like I can barely read that, my bud. Can you make that a little bit bigger
Yeah.
for me?
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
struggling. I'm struggling to see what's
I
what's on the screen.
I apologize.
So
How's that?
here, this pricing is for the S3 standard storage class. Can you walk us through the different storage classes?
Yeah, so we have standard. So first of all, let's step back. Let me tell you what happens. You you create a bucket. And when you create a bucket, you give it a unique name. And that unique name has to be unique all throughout AWS. So odds are if you created a bucket called my bucket, someone who is an Amazon customer has probably already used it. So you need to have something unique. Why do we do that? Because if you turn it into a website, that's one of the things, right? You have to have a DNS name. It has to be unique out on the internet. And so I did, although I will tell you, I was I was teaching a class not too long ago, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to create a bucket. What about unique names?" And some give me a suggestion. And somebody said, "Call it Lab Bucket." And I was like, "Okay, Lab Bucket." Boom! I put Lab Bucket, and guess what? No one had used it, and we created that bucket. And so it was like, "Oh wow, okay," And
So
I see a
you're
lot
the
of
one
people.
who owns that bucket. I've been trying to do that
Yeah.
one.
Well, I deleted it last week. You can anyone else can have it. I didn't need it anymore. We have some. It is a bucket name case sensitive. We want to keep it lowercase. We want to keep that bucket name lowercase. It's specific on the types of characters and that you can use as well. So when you create a bucket, you pick the region. And we talked about the geographic location, right? A region is a geographic location. Where is that bucket located? And so you want to put that bucket close to your users, right? Close to people who are going to use it. I'm here in the Rocky Mountains. You're in Texas, so we could choose somewhere in North America. We've got options. We've got U.S. East, one in Northern Virginia. We've got US East 2 in Ohio, US West 1 in San Francisco, US West 2 in Oregon. Those are things that we could go ahead and choose. Now, what it does is it then creates a copy of your data, 3 copies of your data, and puts them in availability zones. So you have 1 copy of your data in 3 availability zones in that region. What does that mean? Well, okay, let me tell you a little here. This is incredible. If you had a million objects, you're halfway there. Okay, if you had a million objects, the durability is 11.9. So 99.9999999%
I don't have 11 fingers, Matt.
I know. Well, yes, yes. But here's the thing: if you had a million objects in your bucket, of course, we make 3 copies of it, the chances of you losing one object, you would lose one object based upon that percentage every 10,000 years.
We have someone who says that they can give us one of their fingers. So I have 10, and we have someone who's giving me an 11th finger. So now we have 11 nines. There we go. Thank you.
So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. One object lost over 10,000 years. Every 10,000 years. That's incredible. So the standard S3 standard is our standard and is a general purpose for going ahead and storing any data. And then let's scroll down. I'm going to skip intelligent tiering right now. We
Yeah, because we're
also have,
talking about like these, you said the data is stored in a region and is replicated across at least 3 availability zones. But are there situations where we are not replicating across 3 availability zones for certain storage classes?
well, we can, yes. And so I'm going to get to that here. And so we have what's known as S3 standard and frequent access. And notice we charge you less. Now it's less than 2 cents per gigabyte a month. And this is data that's infrequently accessed. And so you're still storing it in 3 regions. You're just storing it within you're not going to access it frequently, and you get charged for accessing it. And so maybe you keep the great example I have is maybe we have a report and we look at it for 30 or 90 days, and then we don't really need it. And so now I can move that data off into infrequent access. I'm charged less, and because I'm not going to be frequently accessing it. That's it, right? We've got another report coming out this month or this quarter, and so we'll be focusing on that report. We also have the concept of S3 one zone, and what they mean here is
Okay.
one zone, one availability zone. And you say, well, wait a second, Matt, what kind of durability does that have? Now I'm kind of playing with it. But what we've seen a lot of customers do is, and again, this is what, 1 cent per gigabyte. We see a lot of customers have their region like US West Oregon, and they have S3 standard or S3 standard infrequent access. So they have 3 copies of their data. And then they use S3 one zone and they replicate their data to another region. And so they're only keeping 1 copy of that data in another region. And then what? And so now if a whole region goes down, we have that copy of data. And so again, great way that customers use. We also
we
have
keep going lower and lower and lower in price, and I think we're going to go even cheaper, aren't we?
Yes. Well, then we have the concept of how hot is your data? If you're using your data right now, that's hot. If you were storing your data and you infrequently accessed it, it's warm data. It's warm data. The concept of Glacier, S3 Glacier, is cold data. I'm not going to go ahead and access it frequently. Maybe it's long-lived archive data. Oh, I'm with HR. Hi, guess what? We have to keep HR records of all employees, whether they're current in our company or no longer working with the company, for X number of years. Oh, okay. Well, let's go ahead and store it. And so we have Glacier, and Glacier has 3 different kinds. We have Glacier Instant Retrieval. I can store it. It's cheaper. It's less than a penny per gigabyte, but I can get it fast. I can get it fast in a matter of minutes. All right. And then I have, well, in a matter of milliseconds. And then I have Glacier Flexible Retrieval. This is 1 to 12 hours. And then lastly, the cheapest is S3 Glacier Deep Archive. And what I tell students in my classes is imagine having a lawsuit against your company, and the opposing attorney wants some documents. Well, you have those stored on S3 Glacier Deep Archive. You're paying a fraction of a penny per gigabyte a month, and you know that you don't have to give that the request from the attorney. You have 15 days to get that. And so you can store things there and retrieve it because it'll start restoring within 12 hours. And so by having all of these different options, these storage classes, it gives you the ability to choose as
And
needed.
Matt, we're talking about like the different storage classes and the pricing of the different storage classes. You also mentioned one thing, and I see a question here, and it's specific about the pricing. So let's go ahead and bring this up on chat. So, for example, 1 gigabyte of objects times 3 availability zones is going to equal a certain amount. And I'm going to go ahead and answer that and say, no, you don't factor in the availability zones or anything.
Yep.
That's just the amount that you pay for that object in your bucket based on the size. We factor all the availability zone stuff in. It's a flat rate to you effectively. So think about it that way.
Yep. Yes. Yes. And we're doing that, right, to ensure the security and the safety of your data, and so that you don't lose it. But we're not charging you 3 times for everything.
No, but
No.
the pricing does change based on the region selection. So we have pricing
Yes.
pulled up here on the screen. Can you show how that pricing changes? Let's say if we go to Sydney, there might be a price difference there from Ohio, and just scroll down to Sydney just for no reason, just because that may end up showing us a price difference. There we go.
Yeah.
So now we're seeing a price difference between these storage classes. So be aware that regional selection can overall impact your cost.
And we have one other storage class that I haven't talked about, and that's the concept of intelligent tiering. And intelligent tiering uses machine learning. You set it, and our machine learning algorithms will collect information about your access patterns, and then it will recommend which tiers to use. So if
Would you
you're
say that's
unsure,
intelligent?
I would say that's quite intelligent, because we're doing this to save you more money. And so if it
Yeah.
looks and says, "Wow, that one file hasn't been accessed in a
You
long
said
time,"
file. It's not a file, Matt. It's what?
it's an object.
Ah, that's the word we're looking for.
Yes. Do we
So
have a
Amazon
poll?
think so. Yeah. So Amazon S3 doesn't use files. It actually uses objects. You can take your video files, upload them. It's all considered an object. So Matt's asking for a poll. Let's go ahead and bring that up here on the screen. I'll share mine. Everyone get ready. It's poll time. Amazon S3 is what type of storage? Is it flash, object, optical, or floppy disk storage? One person said floppy disk. I don't know why. Immediately out of the gate. Okay, there they go. There goes some of the correct answers. I'm not telling you what the correct answer is, but I'm going to tell you there may be, or may not be one that's just like kind of booming up there. Okay, if you want to say flash, you could say flash, but it may or may not jive with the correct answer. A lot of people are saying yes, 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 yes for two. Um, Matt, what do you think? Should we
I
confirm if it's correct?
I think we should.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. The correct answer is object. So Amazon S3 is object storage.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's kind of move on to the next storage. I know I'm kind of trying to be conscious of time here, and
Yeah,
one of the
absolutely.
things, yeah. So one of the things I wanted to talk about and show is EBS, Elastic Block Storage. So last week we talked about EC2. In fact, the homework was to go through the FAQs for EC2 and Lambda, and we can go ahead and have an EC2 instance. Remember, this is a virtual machine that is running. We define the instance type. Remember, we talked about memory optimized and compute optimized in general. And that sets the number of virtual CPUs, the amount of memory, and then we set the storage. The storage is the actual storage connected to that virtual machine. It's actually network attached storage. It's iSCSI, and it's block storage. So here's the difference between S3 and elastic block storage. Think of block storage like the storage on your laptop. When you write a file, right, and then it writes the whole file in little blocks, right? The hard drive is segmented, and it parks the data in these little blocks. I always liken it to a parking lot. But then when you go ahead and update that file on Elastic Block Store, it just makes the changes to the blocks that have changed, just to the
And you have
areas that have changed.
And you mentioned like EC2, we talked about it last week, and now we're talking about storage, EBS. And there's a question in the chat, and it's actually it's pretty curious. Um, can we use an EC2 instance without EBS?
Well,
No, we can't. So in
no.
order for EC2 to work, you have to have an EBS volume that is mounted as at least your root volume. So your operating system, any pre-installed
Yep.
applications can be on there, but you have to have at least one. We'll talk about other types of storage as well, but just know that technically you could use like Amazon Elastic File System to mount another volume if you needed to. You can use Storage Gateway if you wanted to, but that's way outside of what we're talking about today. So at least one EBS volume per EC2 instance.
Yep. And we had a question there. Why not? Why can't you use an instance store?
Ooh, do you want to take that one?
Well, an instance store again is the disk that's attached. The virtual machine runs on physical hardware, and the instance store is a disk that is on that physical hardware. The thing is that if you shut down your EC2 instance, you power it down. When you power it back up, there's no guarantee that it will go on that same physical server in that availability zone. And so that is, instant stores are not persistent,
It's ephemeral.
Yeah, they're
Ephemeral
ephemeral.
storage. Yep.
Great for temp data, not great for any persistence, including an operating system.
Yeah. Whereas EBS volumes are ephemeral. Or sorry, they are not ephemeral. EBS volumes are persistent storage. You can take snapshots of them. You can store your data on them. Please do take snapshots of your EBS volumes because they are incremental as well. But I think we're going a little bit in the down the track of where we don't want to go for right now. Save your questions. Type them, put them in the chat. We have chat support. Shout out to our chat moderators. Thank you so much to Thomas and Anthony for helping us today. And we will spend about 20 minutes later on at the end of today's show to answer your questions as well. But Matt, let's go ahead and maybe shift over to whatever it is that you want to take us into next.
Yeah, and I just really want to say that Thomas put a great link to an article on instant store versus EBS. So take some time to review that. I wanted to talk about the different volume types. So we have two different types of disks that we share. And one of those is we have SSD, or solid state drives. These are really fast. Do you remember getting a solid state drive when they came out, Aaron?
I do. Yep. Super fast. And they were quiet too.
Oh yeah. And it was, I just remember the ability because it can jump across the diagram of the disk so fast. It's amazing. I remember I started at a different company and my laptop died. And I called, I told my boss, and he goes, "Well, we won't be able to ship one to you." I go, "What happens if I run out and buy an SSD drive and I put it in my laptop? What do you think of that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I approve it." And so I did. And then literally it was, instead of waiting for your laptop to boot up, you were like, boom, ching, all right, here we go. And so they're incredibly fast. And we have different types of solid state drives based upon performance. And so you can look at different types of performance and maximum throughput. Obviously, the faster, the better here. We also have the second type, and that's a hard disk drive. And this is older technology. It's been around a long, long time. And I used to explain it and people look at me. But I'm so happy that records have come back, right? We have a lot of people who are buying old vinyl albums, and we have the record going around in the needle going across the disc, and it plays a little staticky and all that. Well, that's kind of how a hard disk drive operates. We have platters, multiple platters, and read-write heads, and the read-write heads have to go across the disk to access the sector or block that is supposed to happen. It's not as 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 performance enhancing, and so, but that doesn't mean it's not good for certain use cases. And so I can have an application that we don't use an awful lot. Why would I pay, right? Why would I always liken this to, why would I buy the super fast car when I can't go faster than 60 miles an hour on the highway, right? Or traffic
I
is
have no
so
idea.
bad.
I have no idea.
Right? And so it's a performance thing. I'll just drive a different class of car. And so again, same thing here. It's based on cost, based on usage, based on performance. Those are things that you need to consider when you're designing your EC2 instance. So one of those things to step back is, what's your application doing? Well, how is this application written? Talk to your developers. Find out what optimal performance is. There's a lot of tuning that goes on here in AWS to improve performance. So I'm going to go ahead and put the volume types for that link in the chat.
Awesome. And while you're working on that, I'm going to go ahead and pull up our next poll. So before we move further into our storage discussion, we talked about different storage classes with Amazon S3. Let's go ahead and see who knows the answer to this question. Which of the following is not an Amazon S3 storage class? S3 standard, S3 standard infrequent access, S3 serverless, or S3 Glacier instant retrieval? Let's see. See some answers coming in. And while you're answering that, if you just joined us, my name is Aaron Hunter. My buddy down here, Matt Heffernan, and I are talking about AWS Power Hour Cloud Practitioner. This is episode 4, and we're focusing time on storage and databases. A lot of people are
Awesome.
saying 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. What do you say, Matt? You want to give them
I
the
say,
answer?
I say it's 3.
It is 3. S3 serverless is not a storage class. However, Amazon S3 as a service itself is serverless. So if you're building out serverless architecture, you can count Amazon S3 as one of those serverless components.
So, what I'd like, do we have another poll too on EBS? I think so.
I think we do, but let's maybe give it a few minutes. We'll pull that one up. If you want to venture into the next topic, that's totally fine as well.
That's okay. So let's go ahead and let's jump into DynamoDB. So now we're going to switch into databases. Databases are important, are so important. Think about it. Banking transactions, ordering online, stock transactions, all of the what we take for granted technologically, all of those types of transactions use different databases. I'm sure we got a lot of gamers out there. How many gamers do we have? Anyone a gamer?
Let us know if you're a gamer. Type yes or no in the chat. I'm very
Yep.
curious also, like, are you a gamer? I mean, we're on Twitch. So Twitch does a whole lot of like gaming videos and streaming. Um, I'm typically not a gamer. I play like certain games on my phone, but that's pretty much it. No
Okay.
major platforms.
And I'm still scarred by the long days ago when I was a kid and all we had was Pong on the black and white TV, right? It wasn't the wonderful graphics that we have now that are just awesome. But
Pong, where it goes like boop, boop,
yep,
boop,
yeah, that was
boop.
basically it. My brother and I sitting in the on the back porch, with that, and that was it. That was
If
it.
you if you really want to take it like old school, there's Pog, not even Pong, just Pog, like with the little circles and the discs and the hammers or slammers,
Oh,
I think
okay.
is what they're called.
All right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, somebody said
Anyway,
I'm showing my age. I am. It's horrible.
yeah,
It's
it's
horrible.
it's okay.
Uh, It's all right. It's all right. I'll be done soon.
I told you that
So
earlier when we were reviewing all the poll questions, and I was like, "What? Why would you put that as a
yes,
response option, Matt?"
yes,
Like,
he did say there one of the poll questions coming up. He did, Aaron gave me a hard time and said, I don't think most of our audience is going to know what you're talking about with
no,
this
I
option.
said if they know, then their legacy.
Yes, yes, seasoned, right? And so, with all these different databases, one of them is they store different structures of data. They store different structures of data, and that's what I really want to drive home to everyone on Twitch today, is that we have different structures of data. And the first one we're talking about here is Amazon DynamoDB, and it's a NoSQL database. It's a NoSQL database. It stores key value pairs. One of the things that you can use is shopping carts online. When you put your data in the shopping cart, have you ever you left it in the shopping cart and came back later to buy it?
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife does that all the time. We play a game. Who's going to be the one who hits pay? Comes out of the same
Sometimes
place.
we take
I
things
don't.
from the shopping cart and move into a list or like save for later.
Yeah.
That save for later list gets really long though. I'm gonna tell you.
Yes, it does. And
Yeah.
so one of the things that happens is a NoSQL database is a set of key value pairs, and we have to step back because we also have we have multiple different types of databases, and it's somebody says your shopping cart data is stored in JSON, right? Yeah, Java script object notations. There are key value pairs of items, and so there'll be information about the item. If you bought a book, it'll have things like the author and the title and the number of pages and the cost and all those things. That's just one example of a JSON item. And so one of the things is we use these different databases for different things. The NoSQL database will be fast for terms of carts, for example, or a gaming leaderboard. I want to know, I mean, who wants to know? You don't want any latency there, do you, Aaron? If you're on the leaderboard and I'm going to be in charge, I'm the one here
Wow.
who's winning, right?
Latency is bad for games. So bad for games. So ideally, like we see things happening in real time. And you know what? Speaking of things happening in real time, you did ask me about a poll. Is it time to see if we can get things happening in real time here?
Sure.
Let's do this. All right, everyone. Let's go ahead and talk more about EBS a little bit. So Amazon EBS offers what types of disk drives? Two of these are correct. So go ahead and type two answers in the chat. Is it floppy disk drives, hard disk drives, optical drives, solid state drives, zip drives? There's another option out there. What'd you say? It was a Boolean drive?
Yeah, it was a Bunelli drive.
Benelli drive. What was that? It
Oh,
was
so it was before, it was the precursor to a zip drive. They called them the
okay.
Bunelli drive. I
Okay.
I was looking for distractors, and that'll distract you.
I mean, you got it, but two of these are kind of standing out for sure. Hey, one person
Bunelli,
said
yes,
no
Bernelli
sequel,
drive.
no how says Bernelli Drive. There you go.
Yes,
I thought it was like a street or like a Bernelli Avenue. No, it's Bernelli Drive, an actual type of disc. So
yes,
yeah, you
yes.
got me on that one, Matt. I did not know the answer to that.
I want to say, just as as a crazy fact here that you don't need to remember, that it stored 10 times the amount of storage that you did on a floppy drive. That's what was the benefit of one of those drives.
But
So
that's not an ABS volume, is it?
no,
So
it's
what are
not.
they?
It's not. It
They
it
are
is hard
hard
disk
disk,
drives and solid state drives. And
solid
remember,
state
there's a
drives.
performance difference there, and you would choose based upon performance. What do I
Yes.
need to do with my application? How am I connecting it to my EC2 instance? What EC2 instance did I think? So we want to have performance on the EC2 instance, and we want to have performance selected properly on our EBS volume.
Yep. Awesome. Back over to databases.
All right. So back to databases. We can also talk about Amazon RDS. So the relational database service. Let's take a step back here. Relational databases have been around for a long time, around since the 70s. Okay, the 1970s. Okay, so one of the things is it's SQL, structured query language, and so we go ahead and define our data and how it is stored. We create what's known as a schema. And in a relational database, we want to include, really just have one copy of the data. That's it. And so we want to go ahead and we create it in tables. Think of a table like a spreadsheet. It has rows and columns. And then we can have multiple tables connected together between using primary keys and secondary key. A primary key would be a unique column in one table, and then a secondary key, it would be linked. A copy of that would be over in another table. I get asked a lot, well, why would you do that, Matt? Well, okay, what happens if you had information about your employees? Personal information can't be made public. And so I would have maybe employee information, name, first name, last name, maybe manager that they reported to in one table. But then I would also have a second table that's hidden. I've got stricter security permissions on it. Now maybe only HR can see it. Now only maybe your manager can see it. And what's in there? Your address, your phone number, your
All
social
the
security. Well,
PII
in the
stuff, the
States,
personal. Yeah.
and your salary, all those kinds of different things. And so we can go ahead and create that structure there. And so what a lot of customers could do is they could take their database of choice, their relational database of choice, and they could create an EC2 instance and install it on there. That's pretty good. But what do you have to do, Adam? What happens when you're managing your EC2 instance? What are you required to do administratively?
Are you asking Adam?
Aaron. Yeah, Adam. Sorry.
Wasn't sure if you were talking to someone
Where
else or
did
me.
Adam come in? That's all right. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think it all depends, right? So
I need new glasses.
no, you're good. So when you have your database, and if you have to share it out, ideally you have some kind of shared responsibility. One person called it out. You have the lockdown least privilege mechanism. If you need someone to access one database, they can only access that one database. You can also, and if we talk about DynamoDB for a second and kind of jump ahead, with DynamoDB, you can set permissions at the item level. So that's really cool too. And actually, we have No SQL Know-how, who's talking a lot about how we can use DynamoDB and Amazon S3 together. And we'll talk more about that service in just a few minutes here. But
Yep.
let's go ahead and talk more about RDS and some of the use cases for it as well.
Well, and I saw someone put if you install your database on EC2, you have to update and patch it. And so we have that concept we've mentioned of serverless, and we have a lot of serverless options, a lot of serverless solutions at AWS. DynamoDB is a NoSQL serverless solution. You don't have to manage anything under the hood. Amazon does it for you. Same thing with RDS.
Yeah.
RDS, you just have to worry about you pick the database engine you want, you pick the instance size, but Amazon will patch it for you and make sure that everything is up to date and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, so RDS is a managed database solution where you're not managing the infrastructure and the patches and the operating system and so forth, and the backups and snapshots. So with RDS, we'll take your snapshots, and every 7 days, we can save them for you. You can have your automatic snapshot stored for up to 35 days with RDS. But
Yep.
RDS, Matt mentioned there's serverless options, and one of those would be, let's say, Aurora. So Aurora is an RDS database engine type, and Aurora has a serverless option as well. So
Yep.
let's go ahead
And
and
I'm
jump into
gonna
that.
let me come back. Whoops, right here. There we go. Pop to the right one. Amazon Aurora. So let's talk about those different engines. Okay. So Amazon Aurora, we created it. And what it says here is it's fully compatible with MySQL and PostgreSQL. Those are two open source database engines. They have different sizing, and so in terms of how big your database can be. And so Amazon went ahead, and we're a company of builders, and we created our own Amazon database, relational database called Aurora, and it is performance-wise much faster than MySQL and PostgreSQL. It's also cheaper, and so we can go ahead and save money doing that. We can do it in multiple availability zones with a 99.99% uptime, just a lot of different ways. But this is our Amazon Aurora database. We also have other engines, and I want to walk you through those other engines that you can use. One of them is Microsoft SQL Server. And so you could say, guess what? We're running on premises Microsoft SQL Server, and now we want to migrate to the cloud. Do we have to go with an open source database? No, you can move exactly with your license from Microsoft and move it over. That's a great way. We also can do it for Oracle. We also support MariaDB, and as I said before, PostgreSQL and MySQL. And so if I kind of grab, I'm going to go ahead and put all of these in the chat.
All the links. Okay. And while you're
All
doing
those
that,
links.
I'm gonna throw a poll in the chat. Okay. So once those links are there, and I see that you just threw them in, so thank you. We have another poll for everyone. Amazon RDS is what type of database? So we talked about NoSQL databases. We didn't really mention Graph, have we? There's SQL databases, and here's the one that I kind of gave you a hard time over, an X500 database. If you know what that is,
Yeah.
you might be putting yourself on that shelf. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put that out there. No SQL, Graph, SQL, or X500. Everyone is saying it's an SQL database.
Yeah,
Everyone's saying,
somebody.
one
That's
person said no SQL. It's okay. It's okay. Not a problem. You know what is no SQL? DynamoDB. So specifically, relational databases is an SQL database. DynamoDB is no SQL.
Yeah. Yeah, and X.500 was a way for was an early directory service database.
Yeah.
So it was optimized reads to writes. So your typical SQL database will have 1-to-1 reads to writes. Typically, it depends transactional wise. With a directory service, think about looking up someone's phone number or what cube they sit in at work or who their manager is or any of that static information that doesn't change. So you're looking at 1,000-to-1, 10,000-to-1 reads to writes.
Wow.
And so it was optimized performance-wise for that. If you use the and it eventually came out into the lightweight directory access protocol was it was modified. But anyway, we won't go digress into history there. We've talked about these different database engines, and that allows our customers to change. We have the ability, we have two tools. I'm just going to bring this up sidewise, but you can have what's called a schema conversion tool. So you can go from one of these databases to a different database from your on-premises, whatever engine that you're running there, and you can use the schema conversion tool and it'll change the schema. It'll change the structure of your database under the hood. And then you can use our database migration service to move all the data over. And so I would liken it to going from one house to another, right? You're moving from one house to another. How are we going to go ahead and do this? The movers come, right? They make sure they pack everything up appropriately, and then it's labeled and put in the appropriate rooms in the new house. And that's essentially what you can do with those two tools.
And I threw links, at least for one of them, in the chat right now. I'm going to drop the other one in there. So the first link, schema conversion tool, and the second link is for our database migration service. So both links are in the chat. Go ahead and check them out. And yeah, Matt, we did mention Amazon Aurora, and we mentioned how it's a managed service as well as a managed serverless service. And we have the different database engines that it supports. But let's go ahead and do one more poll here real quick. Where's my mouse? Found it, found it, found it. I lied. I did not find it. There it is. Found it. One more poll, everyone. Amazon Aurora is compatible with which of the following database engines? Choose two. We have MariaDB, Oracle, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, PostgreSQL. Which two of these are compatible? I see some people are saying 3 and 5. We have one answer for 1 and 5. We have a few others where there's singles. Remember, choose two. Okay. Exam tip. If you're studying for your exam and if you want to go ahead and take your exam, go ahead and do it. Please do. Sign up for the challenge. Don't forget to do that. But if you answer a single response on a multi-select question, then there's no partial credit. Okay. That just means you get a 0. That question is wrong. For those who were answering multiple questions, great job. And let's go ahead and show you the answer here. So 3 and 5 are correct. MySQL and PostgreSQL. I'm also keeping a very close eye on time here because we have about like 10 minutes left, Matt, maybe 5.
A little less, yeah, like
Yeah.
about 6. So,
Yeah.
so it's really important to understand we have other database tools. We have Graph, we have all kinds of different other document databases. That is not important here as in the subject we're learning. But again, wanting to know that there's a plethora, I'm going to use that word, that was today's word that I was supposed to use. There are a lot of different tools that we have for different services. And so we can go ahead and use Dynamo. We can go ahead and use different databases to solve our challenges, our application usage of data. And data is huge. Companies make a huge collect a whole bunch of data and then make a lot of decisions based upon that data. Yeah, and somebody said, good
And one
question.
person asked,
Oh,
is
go ahead.
DMS new? And no, it's been around since 2016. So it's been around for about 6 years. Definitely go out, check it out. And in terms of DMS supporting migrating to DynamoDB, DMS supports schema conversion tool. So if you need to convert between different types of engines, you can do that. Go ahead and check out the link and let us know if that's answering your question. We'll see if we can circle back around to it, but I want to make sure that Matt is answering or covering everything that we wanted to today. We will come back to Q&As in just a few moments, okay? So hold on to that question. Bring it back around, I
Yeah,
promise.
awesome. Awesome. Well, I think we should talk. Let's talk a little bit about homework. What do you think?
Let's go ahead. So for this week's homework, actually, you know what? We have one more poll question as well. So let me go
Oh,
ahead and bring that up. One more poll question for everyone. Let's go ahead and drop the answers in the chat. Amazon DynamoDB stores data in what type of format? Is it CSV, comma separated values, video file format, shape files, or key value pairs? I see one of these lines is already taken off already. So here we go. Here we go. It's a lot of people are saying key value pairs. No one is arguing with this. So I'm going to go ahead and show the answer. It is key value pairs. So great job, everyone. Great job. Fantastic. You said there's homework. I'm
yes.
excited for homework. I am definitely excited for homework. Let's pull that up. So homework for this week is to read the FAQs for Amazon S3 and Amazon RDS. Read both and then post a use case for each. So last week we asked you to read EC2 and Lambda FAQs. This week we're asking you to do S3 and RDS. And the difference is last week we gave you one task. This week we're giving you two. On
Yeah.
LinkedIn, post a use case for each service. Use the hashtag AWS Power Hour. That's the only way that we can see if it's aligned to the show. Also, make sure it's public. Okay, so if you don't make your post public, we won't be able to see it unless we're one of your connections. All right. You can tag me at Aaron S Hunter. You can tag Matt. It's at MH Hefe. And that's a lot better, Matt, from the first episode.
Yes, I know. I know. I know.
Yeah.
Er- yes, I. For those of you who don't know, maybe didn't catch it in the first episode, I had this really long LinkedIn. Uh, it was Matthew Heffernan, and then a
It's like
long string
Matthew
of
Dash
numbers.
Heffernan
Yeah,
Dash something. Yeah.
it was. And Aaron had said, "Hey, can you shorten that?" And I forgot about it, and so the egg was on my face, right, as they would say. But now I know, yeah. Long like a snowmobile. I like that. Yeah, talking about Amazon snowmobile, bringing lots of data. That's awesome.
Yeah. See some
Did you want?
questions in the chat around the Cloud Practitioner Certification Challenge.
Yeah.
Um, I just dropped a link in the chat for everyone. So let me actually pull that down here for each of you. Oh, let's see if I can get this to move down properly. Here we go. So if you haven't signed up already, sign up for the challenge. There's a link in the chat. So make sure to sign up there. It could take you a little while for you to get the voucher code. Read through, enter, join the challenge, do the thing. Challenge yourself to become certified. AWS Cloud Practitioner Certified is a great foundational step. It's actually a foundational certification. And you can see right here, we have here's how to start, 3 different steps, and some frequently asked questions for each of you. So with that, I think it's
And
time to move over to Q&A.
Yeah, I see one question that says, "What's your definition of use case?" And I would say just one thing that you could use that service for. Maybe you're using S3, for example. I'll give you one as backup and archive. I'm going ahead and storing some archiving data that we may not need, but I need to keep it around from regulatory purposes or whatever. That would be one of the use cases. And then again, for a database, what would I use that database for? Am I going to use NoSQL database? Am I going to use RDS? And if I'm going to use RDS, what kind of business are in? Are we selling things on the web? Maybe I need a transactional database. That could be a great thing. Maybe I want to keep
Yeah,
statistics.
maybe.
Maybe. I mean, fantasy football in the States is starting, right? The NFL is starting in the States. I'm sure people have right, maybe the Premier League. We've talked about people who are cricket fans, and they can go ahead and use a database to keep information about that.
One person saying Amazon.com uses Dynamo. I don't know. I don't know if we do or not. So Amazon.com is the retail side. They might, but what I can say is think about your application and what you're trying to accomplish, not how others are doing it. So what are you trying to? Are you trying to get speed out of it? Are you trying to get performance out of it? Are you? It's okay to use a mix and match. You can use RDS. You can use DynamoDB. It really depends on what you're trying to do. I'm going through the chat questions here. One person's asking if Twitch is using S3 for videos. Again, I don't know. I don't know what other services are using for their infrastructure. What I can do is instead of answering the questions of how something is using the services, we can answer the questions of how you might consider using them. So ask us questions about something specific, maybe going deeper into the technology if you want, and we can answer that. We cannot comment on how Twitch or Amazon.com or anyone else is using our services right now.
And I'll put the link to the homework in again.
And then looks like one person saying, let me go ahead and pull this up. Give me a second here. Grab this one. I have to scroll down a little bit. Confirmation email. Okay. Can you use S3? Here's this. Can we use S3 directly with EC2 without EBS? So technically, Amazon EC2 is going to use some kind of a volume, whether or not you use EBS. Now, earlier we did say with EC2 you have to use EBS. Now, there's instant store, and you can technically have that as a root device. Generally speaking, the answer is no. There are specific instance types that you have to use for EC2 instance store. But when you're saying S3 directly with EC2 without EBS, no. And the reason being is because you actually can't mount an S3 bucket to your EC2 instance. So think S3 as being long-term storage, or maybe just object storage, or for a website, you want to store videos and images. If you needed to use, let's say, an EC2 instance with some kind of S3, then you might be using like storage gateway, but you would need something in the middle to control those operations for you. And then a couple other questions here. Do any questions stand out to you, Matt? And there's one right here that I just answered in terms of like object storage for images and so forth versus like files that you need to write locally on your disk. So that's kind of some use cases.
Somebody asked who 42 is. So
I don't know. Don't forget your towel though.
yeah. Well, no, the jersey that hangs, the hockey jersey that hangs above my head.
Oh,
So
let's make you solo. Let's get that. There we go.
yeah.
42,
So
42.
yeah. So quick background about my background. Back in the 1980s, long time ago, I was an assistant equipment manager with the Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League. And my nickname was Dexter, as in Poindexter. No one's ever mentioned my name and athlete in the same sentence. And so I was not an athlete. I was definitely, I love hockey and played it all my life. But anyway, Steve Ludzik was number 42, and he is the one who gave me the nickname Dexter. So yeah. So anyway, that is why that particular jersey hangs here.
Steve
Yeah.
Dexter.
Yes.
I had one person asking, let's see here. Can you share right here links to the last videos? So actually, I just
Yeah.
posted a link to where you can find all the information there about that. Let me go ahead and bring that up on the screen here. And if you go to AWS Power Hour, you can see there's a cloud practitioner. Go to that link. You can view the on-demand episodes. We have resources from those episodes added to the page. You have security and compliance. You have last week's episode, network and compute services. And then you also have storage and database services. That's this week's episode. Next week, we're going to talk about cost efficiency, pricing models. And then our final episode is a review of the previous 5 and a little exam prep conversations. Okay. So we're
Yeah.
not teaching to the exam, but we can show you where you can go, additional resources. We're going to go through some questions as well. So don't worry.
Well, and I think I've talked to people a lot about test anxiety, and we'll talk about it again. I get my wife says Matt's in test mode. That's a nice way of saying Matt's really anxious about taking the test, and I think we can talk a lot about that coming up. And tips and tricks. Sometimes you think you don't have enough time. I've got so many questions in so many minutes. You have more time than you do. Some questions may take you 5 seconds to answer because you know them right off the bat. That gives you more time for the other questions. And so we'll also talk about what I do. One of the things I do in tests is if I've got, 65 questions, I break it up into 5 questions. I go through 5 questions, and then I close my eyes. I breathe in deeply, exhale, do it multiple times, and then boom, I go ahead. We did have a question, and so that's one of the ways I think you can control your anxiety during the test. We have a question pops up. You told us that pricing isn't on the test. Is there any other tips and help you can give us? The actual price of what it costs is not on the test, but we have pricing models and we have discounts that we pass along. And so those are the things we'll talk about next week. And so it's not an example, how much we talked earlier today, how much do you charge for a gigabyte of S3 standard storage? That will not be on the test. But how do we get discounts for EC2? So that's understanding, because it really goes towards cloud economics. I think, Aaron, didn't you say you were teaching a cloud economics class this week to some customers?
Kind of, yeah. So it's a cloud financial management for builders. And that also comes back to another question right here. So we can kind of talk about that and say which Amazon classes or which AWS classes can help someone become, or rather prepare for studying for the exam. There's really no single class. It's a combination of study, self-study, hands-on experience. Actually, for the exam itself, if you go into the exam guide, we covered that in episode 1. It says that you need at least, or that we recommend that you have at least 6 months of hands-on experience working with our services. So be aware that you can't just read and memorize and study for the exam. There is some practical knowledge, and you have to know how to solve certain scenarios at the same time. So
And I think too, we also have, how do we post in the homework in LinkedIn again? Can you go ahead and remind them? That was a question that came up.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pull that up right here, and then we'll go ahead and say that we're getting pretty close to the end. So once we're done doing this, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So homework review one more time. Read the FAQs for Amazon S3 and Amazon RDS. Read both. We'll drop the links in there one more time. I think Matt has them. So
Yep.
Amazon S3 and Amazon RDS, and for each of these services, for both, okay, or post a use case for each service on LinkedIn. Tag us using hashtag AWS Power Hour. Make sure your post is public so we can see it. And then it's at Aaron S. Hunter and at MH Hefe. But yeah, it's hey Matt, you did a great job walking us through storage and databases today. Thank you to our chat moderators as well. We had Thomas and Anthony, and my name's Aaron. It's not Adam. I don't know where you got that
Yeah.
from, Matt. So my name's Aaron Hunter, senior technical trainer. Matt Heffernan, senior technical trainer, and to all the Adams out there, thank you for viewing, and to anyone else who's not named Adam, thank you for viewing. We'll see you next week on AWS Power Hour Cloud Practitioner, where we may change our names in the future. Who knows?
I'll have new glasses next week and be able to read better. It's Aaron.
Aaron.
Yeah,
All right,
sorry,
everyone.
buddy.
I'll, we'll see you next week.
All
Take
right,
care.
thanks.